Hey folks, good evening and welcome to the weekly watch list. This is Jeff Kohler, aka Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Let's start things off with a little bit of market analysis. You know, last week I made mention that I wasn't even really looking at too many stocks to short. The way prices held up a couple weeks ago, coming into last week, man, I mean, it was just kind of a constant grind down. Wasn't the best swing trading conditions, so in all honesty, I placed very few trades last week. Got whipped out of a couple of things, but only in about three positions throughout the week, which is a pretty light week for me. But really, nothing had set up to where I felt really confident in which way things were going. I'm approaching this week, though, feeling pretty well on top of my game, and this all stems from some stuff that we've been watching and talking about in some of our daily webinars last week. We'll start with copper prices, which you guys know I pay really close attention to as a lead to equity prices. And right now I'm looking at JJC, which is an ETN that tracks copper. And take a look at the movement that's been going on here. Remember, it was 2 weeks ago when copper prices were really, really heavy and equities were trading higher. Over on the Option Addict blog, we had talked about that and said, hey, be careful here because we've got copper prices that are heavy. This is probably going to weigh on equities, and that's what we saw last week. However, last week, while equities look like crap, you've got copper prices which are trading really, really, really well and breaking outside of this channel. And that's why you have stocks last week on Friday like Freeport-McMoRan screaming higher on Friday. This is a really important indicator for equities, and if this relationship continues, then you're going to see the S&P get back up off the mat, and should be a positive week this week. I'm still looking at this longer dated head and shoulders pattern. I still think this looks a little bit too obvious. I'm not as convinced of additional downside from here. I mean, that can all change if things change this week, but right now with copper prices north of $3, in fact, we looked at volume by price last week on the chart of copper futures. A lot of volume trading around that $3 area to get up to 308. There's a big pocket all the way up, which should push prices quite a bit higher. So I want to continue to watch that relationship this week, because if copper prices continue to catch a bid, if they continue to stay up, then equities are going to trail them higher. And what that would eventually mean, I think, is we start to look at the S&Ps from this kind of a perspective, from the higher high, higher low case scenario, which ought to push us back up to around that 200-day moving average yet again. For the umpteenth time. So that's kind of the tell to the market this week, is keep an eye on copper. If it stays up, you're going to get equity prices that catch a bid here, and you're going to see a little bit more upside heading out throughout the week. I've got an awful lot of things I want to look at this week. In fact, the best thing I think that out there that I'm looking at right now is small caps. Now, you guys know from weeks ago, maybe even as far as a couple of months ago, very, very active in the small cap space, trading just as many small cap stocks as I would option positions. And I've been hands off there because small caps, in all honesty, have been looking terrible. There's been no continuity. There's been no continuous flow. There hasn't been that many breakouts, no follow-throughs. So really, I haven't been shopping there. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, I've got a list of about a dozen names that I think look really, really, really good this week. So you're probably going to see me get a little bit more active on the equity front, taking a few stock positions in some of these small caps. So that's the one thing that I think that sets up different here and gives us a little bit more in terms of options. We've had good volume here. Small caps trading really well. Copper also looking pretty good. So I'm looking for an up week this week, and I got a lot of good setups. So let's start with a couple of dip buying setups, even a couple bearish scenarios. I'll throw a couple of those out there, and then I've got a list of small caps here. So take a look. All right, And as far as taking long positions this week, guys, I would stick towards relative strength. Stick towards the stocks that have been up, that have been trading towards recent highs. Whether that's a stock like a SanDisk that's got the pattern of higher highs and higher lows through here, something that's up near its highs that is a reasonable dip buy. I think those are the kind of stocks you want to focus on. If not those, look for breakout candidates. One that I'll come back to here that we've looked at a few times in the past in terms of price patterns has been this Mentor Graphics. With volume starting to press up here, with prices getting pretty close towards their highs, look for a potential breakout later on this week. Same thing with this Success Factors. That's another one, another triangle setup we've been watching here. Looking for a dip buy, looking for reference points overhead to break out. It's another classic looking setups I want to be following here. LTXC, another one, looking for just a good solid consolidation pattern, something that's down near the low end of its reference range. Here off of support and this developing triangle setup, I think that's a pretty decent dip buy. CPX, Complete Production Services, another triangle type play here. I think if you look at the pattern here of higher highs, higher lows, looking for a dip buy here and a breakout north of 16. Volume's been pretty strong. Or if you're looking on the bearish front, look at something like a Cisco. That's a stock that's been really heavy. It's been kind of trading off on its own. Heavy against whatever the broad market's been doing. There's a good head and shoulders type setup that's confirming here as of last week. Last I had on my list here was this GTI, another small cap name here, but still another good consolidation pattern, a good ascending triangle setup down here near support. There's not too many of these setting up right now, as I've only got about a half dozen here to look at. But these are ones that I think look pretty good here. But what I am seeing is what's most common out there are the reversal type patterns, those setups that are down near recent lows. I hate to use Moody's as a reference point here, but I'm going to, because this is the last stock I'd want to buy and bet on a reversal. But this is going to be your most common setup that you find out there, is the shoulder, head, shoulder, and prices up there hanging out towards the upper neckline. I'm finding more of those types of reversal patterns now than I am before, and so that's why you see that when we look at price patterns here, I don't have a whole lot of ascending triangles and breakout type setups, and that's because, well, the majority of stocks are a pretty good distance off their highs. And rather than come here and bet on reversals and bet on the stocks that have been down, I'd rather focus on the dip buys and look for stocks that have been up. That's why my dip buy list is as heavy as it is this week. So the sleeper group here to watch this week too is financials, and I posted a little bit about this last week, but if you get a chance, I'd like you to go and take a look at stocks like JP Morgan, stocks like Wells Fargo, and stocks like Bank of America on their point and figure chart. And you'll be surprised to see that these are all near fantastic longer term reference points, meaning these stocks are still on buy signals, they're at bullish trend lines, and they're at points which make risk very easy to manage from a long perspective, meaning you can get into these positions here with only about 50 cents to $1 at risk, with great long-term entry signals. So I'd like to focus on those this week, and I'll probably look to build a longer-term position in something like a Wells Fargo. That would have been one of my favorites here, and volume has been looking pretty good here as well. So, but we'll be talking and doing a lot more follow-up there in regards to this on TA Live and through our daily webinars. Again, as a reminder, our TA Day, our day trading webinar, where we are trading futures live every day, Monday through Friday from bell to bell. We do have an all-day webinar that is open from the open to the close, along with TA Live in the afternoon, where we focus on options, stocks, more of a swing trading perspective. And then we've got our open house coming up, so make sure you get signed up and attend that. That'll be coming up here soon. So, hope you guys have a good week this week, and I'll go ahead and sign off here. This has been the Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.